So what happens when you die? That's the question I asked him. And I remember through growing up, I used to be petrified. I used to have the biggest fear of death. In my early years, from the age of 2, 3, 4, and 5, I remember having these flashbacks of dying, and everything seemed so real. I remember everything as if it was actually happening. And I used to go crying to my mum's room and thinking, you know, what is going on? Why am I seeing all of this? Why am I seeing all of these different ways of dying? And I used to be crying every single night. And through growing up, everything as part of the journey to start unfolding in front of me was one after another. People would explain to me how they died. I remember the last conversation I had just a week ago. He was explaining to me. He said, I died 3 times. And he was told that he has a greater purpose. So he was sent back here on earth to live his greater purpose. And everything in my whole model of this world started to unfold and started to connect before me. And I started to understand the pieces of this jigsaw and why we are all here. Before we get into it, show reel, hit it. What's up guys, Eric Ho here, and in this very special Spiritual Sunday, I've decided to actually reveal a story, an untold story that I've heard from multiple dimensions, multiple vessels and people in terms of how they died. Some died once, some died twice, some died 3 times, and they kept coming back, and they were even pronounced dead on that hospital bed, and they still came back. And they seen the other side, and they start to explain everything. And through my practice of meditation, through the practices that I've been doing, through yoga, through Tai Chi, through practicing energy, through connecting with the universe and oneness, and also connecting with God, all of these things, there's been a parallel that's shifting to start understanding why we all are here and what actually happens when we die. Now, I'd just like to rewind for a second so it unfolds for you in the next 7 minutes we have together to tell you this story. So, first of all, 4 years ago, I was out in Slovakia and I met this guy. A friend had introduced me, but I always say, you know, you could see it as a coincidence or an accident, but I always say accidents never are really accidents, because coincidence, I don't even know if you understand this word for a second, right? Coincidence comes from the word coincide, which is a mathematical term to why 2 shapes fit together. That's coincide, right? So it's meant to come together. And so when we start to understand that, we understand there are no coincidences in life. My nightmares I was having from the early age, was that remembering the past life? And was that actually fast forwarding into multiple dimensions to understanding what actually happens in the next life? I'll be unfolding all of this to you in the next few minutes. But what actually happened was I was out there in Slovakia and a friend of mine asked me to visit this guy and said I really need to meet him because he had died 2 times and came back. And I said, well, why do I want to meet him? This is really weird. I'm not so into all this spirituality stuff. I said, you know, it's too weird for me. Stop freaking me out. And he said, just come along, Eric. Maybe you'll find it interesting what he has, because he has a product. And I said, a product? Okay, well, in business terms, then I decided, okay, I must go and see this guy. So we went over there, and then he brought out this product. And how the product worked, it was full of magnetic plates, and it basically has this healing energy to it. And he was selling this thing for $10,000, and you just hold on to it and it cures cancers, it cures all types of diseases because it worked with the alignment of the universe. And I remember asking him, I said, you know, how did you even know to create this? Where did you come up with this? Where was the idea from? And he said, it wasn't my idea. And I said, now you're speaking a little bit weird. I said, what do you mean it wasn't your idea? And he said, I was sent back. He said, I was sent back. I died once And he said, I went up there, I went to the other side, and then they told me to come back because there's more that I need to do. So I came back and I invented this thing. Then he showed me another invention. And he said, I pushed it out there, now it's everywhere. And he said, now I have the second product. And he said, I died again. And I said, are you being serious? He said, yes, I was lying on a hospital bed. They pronounced me dead. My whole family was there. And then he came back. He took that breath in and then he was back. And I said, what was it like to die? What was it like on the other side? Now, a lot of you will think this is a biased story. This is coming from one source, one person, right? Throughout this video, you'll start understanding how everything started to connect, and everything probably connects within you too. And I remember him saying that he was on the other side, and then they kept saying that there's this thing, you need to go back and you need to create it, right? Because we are, if you guys believe in this, we are purely a vessel to that greater power, that greater thing that's beyond us. And some of you will argue that there's no greater thing. But let's face it, you, me, and everyone around us and everything around us was created by something that's much more powerful than you and me. And if you don't agree to that, understand one thing: we don't have any control whatsoever when we are to leave this planet. That's out of our control. So who has the control is the question. And we all need to understand that there is this greater power, whether you call it God, whether you call it the universe. Some of you may call it science and the Big Bang. That's cool too. But understand that this thing exists. So he was on the other side and he got sent back. And I said, what's it like on the other side? He said he went through the stages, all of these stages of death. And I've heard of these terms before with a Buddhist background and a Buddhist upbringing, but it never really connected to be reality. It was more like some kind of story, fairy tale type of thing, you know? It wasn't so real. And then he started to explain these stages, and he was talking about going through life is a bit like a game. And you go into a game, and then when you die, you don't really die. It's kind of like game over, but you can come back, right? That's your second life. And you can come back as your third life. And then you need to work through these stages. And then what actually happens is it gets to the highest stage, where then you get to one of the highest stages, which is the guru stage, where you come back and then you've kind of been back so many times, you played the game before, so you kind of know it already. Now, some of you will start to connect now, because some of you know of people, or you are one of those people who came onto this earth with some gift, with some talents, with some knowing. You have more experience and more wisdom than people that are beyond your years in this physical world. But the question is, how do you know more? Why do you have more wisdom? Or why is it that sometimes you can have some kid which is, you know, totally in tune with how everything works around you? It's because that's what we call an old soul. They played the game already, that's why, right? And you have some people live their whole lives to the old ages, and they still not really shifting that consciousness and not really becoming conscious of how things work around them, right? Why is that so? That's a younger soul, right? And he was talking about these stages, and he said there's a guru stage. And then he said that beyond the guru stage, there's some other stage, right? That's some other stage I don't want to go into right now. If you want me to cover it and you're really interested in this topic, just comment below and then ask me about the highest stage. And I can cover another video on the highest stage, because that is mind-blowing. He was talking about these stages, and he said he was completing this game and he needed to come back again. He said, so he had his purpose. Now, fast forward a few years. Just last week, when I decided to put this video together to reveal this for you guys, because I know a lot of you will have that consciousness through meditation already, would have experienced certain things in your life already, would have maybe connected with me even when I was, you know, through the young boy days, you know, where I was having those nightmares and those flashbacks of something that seemed like it really did happen before me. Right? Sometimes we come into this world with some fears, some blockages that is not actually belonging to this world, but it was from our past soul carried on. Then the question comes, you know, how do you forget? How do you remember? So I would always ask these questions. I always ask why. I remember asking this why, and they said, hey, if you put any soul, you put anybody and make them dormant for the 9 months they are in the belly for, right? And then finally pop out, you are going to forget a lot of things anyway. And then that started to connect to everything else. But some things, they stay with you. And now if you rewind back to your younger days, you'll probably have some images, visuals, people you feel you connect with, they're connected souls, right? And you don't know why. It could be a stranger on the street. You feel like you connect with them and you don't know why. It's because you probably have met them before. And that's why sometimes when you go and say hi finally to that person, a lot of things connect and you have a lot of things in common. Like you know this person already, that familiarity, right? That is that soul connection. Very, very powerful. Last week, I was out in Amsterdam with my uncle, died 3 times. Come back. I asked him, I said, I've heard the story so many times because I've been practicing meditation and I keep hearing that when you go into this place, some people do, ayahuasca, some people do take drugs, some people do meditation, some people, practice all these different things, and some people die to get there, to start figuring out and finding that everything is connected, everything is just one. And I asked him about this experience. I said, what did it feel like? What actually happened? What did you see? He said, he's seen that everything was in circles, right? Everything was like dots and circles, and everything was connected. And he felt oneness with everything, basically like a raindrop, and he became the raindrop. Like everything else, all the materials, everything around him, he became that thing. And then he said he's seen all of this stuff. And then he got one voice that was telling him that he needed to come back. He had a much deeper purpose, and that's why he needed to come back and complete this game or this part of the journey. Same thing. And I started to ask questions. I said, how? Why? What happened? What did you see? Right? And he said one big thing he found is that the whole process is to let go of ego. Drop the ego. Right? Come back with this message, and he's now put this message through me to put out to you guys, thousands of people out there, to get this message of oneness, that we are all connected. And I get this exact same feeling, right? Maybe not on the exact same level as dying, but through meditation. Some of you have been following some of my meditation videos on yoga and morning routines and morning practices. When I close my eyes and I tune in and I tune out and I connect with that universe, what I see is I see oneness. I become a part of everything. I understand that everything is pure love. And when you feel that pure love and you can vibrate at that frequency, that oneness, that place of bliss, everything is beautiful. And then I asked him, I said, well, what about next life? How do you know what happens? And how do you know, are you going to come back as, a rabbit, a person? Does this actually exist? And he says, yes. He said, but you also have a choice not to come back. You also have a choice to come back. Maybe you want to come back as a tree, he said. I said, come back as a tree? He said, yeah. If you start to see that everything is love and everything is just beautiful and everything is just one, maybe you just want to come back as a tree to actually feel and observe everything pass by and actually live in that state of being, right? Almost like practicing meditation. Now that's beautiful. And when I started to hear all of that, everything started to unfold, and I started to understand that we never die. Our soul carries on. The only thing that dies is probably this physical vessel we are brought into. And by the way, some of you who are first timers, listen to a message, anything like this, I want to finish off with one thing, to understand that we are not humans having a spiritual experience. Instead, we are spiritual beings having a human experience right now. Right? We are all here in the spirit, whether we like it or not. So once we shift our consciousness to start understanding how things work around us, our perspective shifts. Love starts to vibrate beyond us, and then oneness starts to be created. And that is beautiful. Guys, if you have any questions with regards to any of this, you want to learn about meditation, how to get yourself to that place of oneness and bliss, I could cover this step by step for you in another video. If I get enough comments, I will make the video for you guys. Anyway, that's it from today's Spiritual Sunday. If you enjoyed this video, please do give a thumbs up and do comment below. Let me know where you have tuned in from. Maybe some of you are in Tenerife. If you are, then do let me know, because I'm around for the next few days as well. And finally, remember, remember, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button and the notifications button next to it, because I'm making daily videos to keep you inspired on business, on spirituality, on relationships, on travel, and throwing in a lot of fun to keep you in line and inspired to make 2018 your best year yet. But for now, ciao.